This is the CitizenLink Report.
If you find our insights helpful, would you support our video efforts? Your gift of $25 or more goes a long ways. Covers the crew, lights, cameras, all that. Just click on donate. Thanks from all of us. Hobby Lobby wins a very unusual victory, at least for the short term. This is the CitizenLink Report. I'm Stuart Shepard, along with Tom Minnery, our Executive Director. Hi, Tom.
Hello, Stuart.
We are looking to you to explain what's a pretty complicated court maneuver in terms that regular people like us can understand. What did Hobby Lobby win? What happened?
Well, they won the right to keep fighting in federal court for their moral right, as they see it, not to have to be complicit in Obamacare. And what's at stake is the fact that Obamacare requires insurance policies to cover abortifacient contraceptives. And Hobby Lobby is saying, oh, wait a minute, abortifacients are those drugs that actually cause abortions in fertilized eggs. We can't be complicit in that. We don't want to pay for it. We don't want to provide it, even if the federal government pays for it or somebody else pays for it. We're just not going there. And that was a big decision. It would cost them $1.3 million per day if they lose that case. They did. They filed a case in federal court in Oklahoma, where the company's based, lost it, appealed to the next highest federal court level, the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals in Denver. They lost again. There was a panel.
In front of a panel of 3 judges,
yeah,
which is typical.
A small panel of judges said, no, you can't do this. And so then they appealed to the full court. An en banc session of the court is what that's called. So all of the judges in the 10th Circuit showed up, and they said, yeah, we'll hear it. And they turned around and said, you do have a case. We will issue a restraining order, but we're going to send this back down to the trial court, the lower federal court, to issue another ruling and bring this up properly. So they did, and so the first court, which they had just lost in, now turns around and says, well, you looks like you're going to win. So they gave them a temporary restraining order, which allows them to not participate in Obamacare with that abortifacient contraceptive requirement in the healthcare policy. And so now this case will go probably all the way up to the Supreme Court, I would guess. Stuart, this is a good company, and
this is a Christian ownership, and they run it as a Christian business, if you will. They also happen to run Mardel, which is a chain of Christian bookstores, also very popular with the homeschool market.
Yeah, they got 500 stores. They operate in 41 states, closed on Sunday, pay their employees very, very well, a lot higher than the federal minimum wage, which I guess they could pay for full-time employees. And so it's hard to avoid the thought that the federal government is picking on them. Not only them, there are about 30 for-profit companies that also have sued on this same issue. And all of these cases are wending their way toward the Supreme Court. So far, these companies are having a successful time in making their case. I think about 20 decisions out of those 30 cases in for-profit companies have reached conclusion, and the companies have won. They have been able to be exempt by the court decisions from those contraceptive regulations in the Obamacare policy. So it's a good thing. A lot more to come, though. But it was the victory a few days ago in that lower federal district court that we're celebrating and trying to explain here.
And to bring it down to just a sentence, Hobby Lobby was being presented with this choice: either violate your Christian beliefs about the sanctity of human life or pay $1 million fine a day.
1.3 million, yes, indeed. And what a courageous moral decision to make all of this public and say, here we stand, we're not moving, and to get the victory. Now, there will be other decisions down the road, but so far, so good.
And the trick here is this is really all about the Constitution. This is about the First Amendment. This is about the first right guaranteed in the First Amendment, which is the free exercise of religion. Not, as the president likes to put it, the freedom to worship. That would indicate, well, you're free to be inside your church and say what you want, but out here you got to live with the rules the government sets. But the Constitution says we're guaranteed the free exercise of religion, which should include Hobby Lobby. This should never have gone to court. This should be a slam dunk.
Now you're starting to sound like one of the lawyers for Hobby Lobby, because that's a very important argument. They said, look, there are churches that are exempt from this requirement on contraceptives. Churches, many of them, are nonprofit corporations. There's really no essential difference between a nonprofit corporation and a for-profit corporation, except what it does with the money it gets and how much money it's allowed to keep. And nonprofit corporations and for-profit corporations share a lot of the same benefits of the Constitution, such as free speech, right of association, on and on it goes. So why make a distinction here? Because the nonprofits have had an easier time of it coping with this law than have the for-profits. The White House has said no exemptions for for-profit companies. Now, all of this, of course, has been put back an entire year because this whole trundling, bundling apparatus of Obamacare has not been able to get itself in gear by October, which was the start date.
And let's talk about that next. We heard first from the administration, and then Congress got involved, that they're going to put off the requirement that employers come under the full weight of Obamacare, all of this huge regulation and expense that was going to be laid on people who employ people, who provide jobs for people. It was going to hit, and then they said, oh, we'll put it off for a year, until many have pointed out conveniently after the elections in 2014, the midterms.
Well, I don't think just putting it off after Election Day is going to solve anything. There was an interesting article in the Wall Street Journal this week from the CEO of the company that owns all of the Hardee's and all of the Carl's Jr. restaurants around the country. And he was saying, I don't think a year delay is going to be anything because the apparatus does not work. And he explained what he found from his own company. His company offers health insurance for all of their employees, 21,000 employees who qualify for it, and quite few of them actually take it. He was scratching his head trying to figure this out. So we asked him, why aren't you signing up for health care? Well, a lot of his employees are younger. They're healthy. They don't think they're going to need a doctor. If they do have an accident, they can go into the emergency room and get treated for free. And they're smart enough to have figured out that with Obamacare, there is a pre-existing condition element that says whatever precondition you have, that does not disqualify you from signing up. So an employee is saying, I'm stupid to sign up when I'm healthy. Why don't I wait till I'm sick and then sign up, because I can get the health insurance then? Well, there's another, the Obamacare people have been smart enough to think about this, and so if they offer up a penalty for those who don't sign up for Obamacare.
But
the penalty is a whole lot cheaper to pay than the premium for the insurance. So once again, employees are smart enough to figure out that it's cheaper to pay this than it is to pay this big pile of money over here for insurance that I don't even think I need in the first place. And there's another thing, and that is this. There is a subsidy that the federal government will pay for those whose incomes are small enough to help them afford health care under Obamacare. But the federal government already has announced that it's not going to be ready to check on those who say, I want this subsidy, I qualify. They thought they were going to have the right computer systems in place to check on those claims. They're not. So the CEO of Hardee's and Carl's Jr. says, I predict that those subsidies are going to be awfully popular because employees are smart enough to sign up for them.
Well, and one of the arguments that's been made for many years about a liberal point of view about taxation and government programs, a progressive point of view, if you will, is that they never seem to take into account that people will react to the new reality under the laws that are passed, and those behaviors will change the outcome of this. Right. People won't keep behaving the same way. Yeah. They're going to follow the financial route. One aspect of that, which may be on purpose, I mean, many have argued this as well, is that if an employer doesn't provide insurance to his employees, his or her employees, that the penalty they pay is cheaper than what it would cost to provide the insurance. Some have said, well, that's just going to force everybody to move to government insurance. Oh, well, that's going to force everybody to move to government insurance because the employers are going to be trying to make a profit for the shareholders to keep the company going and employ people. But it seems that the design of Obamacare from the beginning is to push everyone toward government-run health insurance. A couple of questions there. Do you think the government is well managed as a whole? Probably not. Do you think they're really efficient in the way they spend money? Probably not. Do you think they're wide open for fraud? I think there are many cases showing that. Is that who we want running our health care?
Well, no, and look who enforces it, the IRS, a particular agency about whom many of us have no tender feelings already, let alone all of the scandal that we've seen in recent months coming from that agency. Not a good situation.
A final question for as we wrap up. In your opinion, and usually we don't try to look into the future too far, but this is large enough that we can kind of get a sense of it. Will Obamacare ever be fully implemented, or is it just fiscally impossible? Do the numbers just not add up for this to work, given the amount of money that's out there and the amount of money it will cost to make this thing run?
Well, a big question mark is what is going to be the outcome of these 30 lawsuits that large corporations have filed to keep themselves out of it. If those companies are exempt from Obamacare or any part of it, there's not enough money going into the system to pay for it. If a lot of people fail to sign up for it, particularly younger people, there's also not enough money going into it to pay for it. It's hard to see on the trajectory it's on now how it ever works without more legislation to change this, change that. Now the problem there is the Republicans control the House of Representatives, one half of Congress, and they do not like Obamacare at all. So it's got a troubled future, I believe.
All right. Tom, thanks for your insights. Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
And thank you for watching. We always appreciate hearing from you. You may write to us at mail@citizenlink.com. Send us your questions, your comments, your criticisms. We're open to all of that. We can't guarantee a response, but we do read every note that comes in. We encourage you to pray for our elected officials. They're trying to figure this out too. Pray that they would have wisdom to add up the numbers like we've done here and realize that this thing won't work, and that they would act accordingly, that their decisions would be filled with clarity and wisdom as they move forward. And remember, stand tall and be heard.